Welcome to the Pinnacle. Now, so far, we've asked the following questions. What is leadership? Who are you? Who are you leading? What is your win? And who is your successor? Now, today's question to answer in this lesson is, what is your legacy? The fifth level of leadership is the pinnacle, or the personhood stage. This stage occurs when you've achieved something so big and worthwhile that people follow you and want to carry on what you've started. It's a high respect level. Now, starting out as a leader, this ideal level might seem too high to attain for most of us, but still, we reach for it and must have it as an end in mind if we ever hope to achieve it. Now, that's important because we must keep the end in mind to help us maintain our perspective as we grow. Look at statement number 1 in your guide. The problem with having an end in mind and leaving a legacy mindset is that it can initially seem and feel like it's all about you. I don't think most leaders who are level 5 leaders started with the aspiration of becoming one, especially those who implemented great positive changes. No, I think they probably started out as someone who just wanted to make a difference. The level 5 leader's mindset likely developed over time as they learned that it takes more than themselves to accomplish lasting change and grew through the 5 levels organically. I'm reminded of the ancient patriarchal fathers in the Bible who dug wells to provide water for their people and their flocks. They started out where they were at and dug in to provide for those that they were responsible for leading. However, as time passed and their sons grew, it became time for those sons to leave their fathers and establish their own flocks and their own households. Those sons learned to dig wells from their fathers. I suppose it was an organic learning experience, with the sons watching their fathers and the fathers digging and showing them how it was done. But I like to think of it as the father leading while digging, being the model and setting the example. Now I know, what you're currently doing probably takes most of your time, attention, and energy. You're likely digging your own wells. But will what you do now carry on into the future? Is it intentionally modeling and setting the example? Is what you're doing now likely to serve others in the future? And who will drink from the wells of those whom you show how to dig? Now that's an example of legacy thinking. Remember this. Leaders must never forget what got you to where you're at now won't automatically get you to the next level. And being self-centered as a leader poses a problem of thinking that yesterday's success is to become the model for themselves only. And it shouldn't be that way. Because if what you're doing now is important, then it must extend beyond you and continue even when you're not there. Yesterday's success of those who came before us is someone else's legacy. Our job is to build upon that legacy, to add value to it, and pass it on. Now, isn't that what we hope others will do for us? So look at number 2 in your guide. A leader who's moving into a great legacy does so by understanding that yesterday's success is the floor to tomorrow's opportunity for others. Now think about it. You and I are standing on the shoulders of those who helped us to get where we're at today. None of us succeeded alone. Someone, somewhere, at some time or another, left something to build upon and gave us an opportunity. Look at number 3 in your guide. Too often, leaders reach a high level and become endangered when they think they have nothing left to learn. If we reach a point where we feel like we're a legacy, we're probably already in trouble, because we can think that we're the only ones who can bring something to the table. If so, we stop developing ourselves and we stop learning. Someone who thinks they've arrived will close the lid on their learning and their growing. Our team founder, John Maxwell, has written over 100 books about personal growth and leadership. He pastored for 25 years, built several successful companies, and taught leadership all over the world for over 50 years. But he still makes learning his priority. He still goes to conferences, seminars, and listens to great speakers and teachers today. And he says, if you're through learning, you're through. He's a level 5 leader, yet he keeps raising his lid. The goal of today's lesson is to help you think about what you want to leave behind when your leadership is handed over to others, regardless of your level today. You are writing your story, living your legacy right now. And for you, is it going to be the greatest story ever told? Well, as you set goals and stretch to reach them, remember, you're writing the greatest story you'll ever live and tell. So look at number 4 in your guide. To make your story relatable, work to share more lessons about how you overcame mistakes and failures than you do about your successes. That's because your success will be evident, but your journey won't be unless you share it. And the truth is that people are much hungrier for inspiration than they are to be impressed. So will your legacy to leaving others be value-based, people-centered, and one of servant leadership? Well, your legacy will live on long after you if you can model and instill these qualities and convictions in others. Now here's the paradigm shift that must happen to become a level 5 leader. To create a legacy, you must add value to leaders who multiply leaders. Level 5 legacy leaders lead leaders, not followers. Legacy leaders understand they can't develop everyone, but if they can develop enough leaders, they can develop more followers. Now even Jesus understood this principle. We've all heard about the crowds that followed him, and yes, he preached to them, but it was his inner circle that he spent the most time with, his 12 disciples. And he went even further. He even spent more time training Peter, James, and John, didn't he? Well, even as God in the flesh, Jesus was bound by the very time he created, and he knew where to spend it. He invested in everyone he encountered, but he spent his most important time developing the leaders who would carry on his legacy. Look at number 5 in your guide. To leave a legacy, we must shift our thinking from we're finished to we're starting, from expert to student. Legacy leaders must always be learners and recognize they have room to improve, consistently setting an example of being a lifelong learner. Well, why is that? Because when you're living a legacy, constantly growing and improving, you're making room for others to rise to the top. And that's going to require a high level of awareness and intentionality. Pinnacle leaders lift and expand. The old mindset of leadership was there was only so much room at the top. But a legacy leader understands that legacy is built by taking others to the top, lifting them, all the while making room for them at the top, continually expanding. Here's a paradox you'll experience as you become a legacy leader. When you know you can now afford to quit and relax, you can't. And why is that? Well, at this level, you realize you're about to experience the compounded results of your past daily disciplines and success. And at the pinnacle level, the multiplication of leadership is about to bring an explosion of success into the lives of other people. And it's going to be way too much fun to walk away from. It'll bring tears of joy to your eyes to watch those that you have trained and set forth succeed. When you see someone use what you taught them and succeed, it's an experience that's hard to describe. But trust me, it's real, and I want you to experience it for yourself. Jealousy and envy are nowhere in the house, just an overwhelming sense of pride, and it's going to be hard to walk away from that. Here's what you'll need to assess about yourself on your roadmap to level 5 leadership. The first one is your leadership desire. What is your leadership desire? What's your reason for leading? Is your desire to just simply be needed or to be succeeded? Number 2, your leadership's focus. Are you working on people's strengths rather than their weaknesses? You know, it's easy to see and point out weaknesses. We all have them, and it doesn't take a leader to do that, just a critic. But a true leader is intentional to look and point out the strengths in others, to build on them and put them to use for the team. Number 3, your leadership's attitude. Do you give away power rather than hold on to it? Number 4, your leader's perspective. Are you seeing potential leaders as they could be, not as they currently are? Now, it can be overwhelming to see the raw talent in the people we lead, but the key focus should be on attitude and aptitude. Do they have a willingness to learn, and are they capable of learning? Start there. As a leader who's growing, you've got to believe in yourself. And if you struggle to do that, borrow some belief from one of your leaders who does believe in you. And as a confident, mature leader, make it a point to share some of that confidence with others. Help them believe in themselves. You can best do that by sharing your past struggles and mistakes. And how sticking with it long enough to overcome them helped you build confidence in yourself. A level 5 leader understands that personal success no longer satisfies once they taste significance. They realize from experience that success is personal and temporary. Significance is for others, and it's lasting. Be that significant leader who helps other leaders succeed. Here's your leadership challenge today. A. Decide what you want your legacy to be. How do you want to be remembered? Will you be a champion for other people so they can be more, do more, and have more? Well, that's how a level 5, a Pinnacle level leader, defines his or her win. B. Understand there's a legacy price. There will always be rewards, but those rewards come with burdens. Will you carry the burdens to reap those rewards? Well, that's the law of sacrifice in action. Leaders give up to go up. As a leader who's concerned about the people you lead, as well as the results you produce, you sacrifice pursuing positions and titles for the perks to pursue collective team results. And if you seek a position, let it allow you to influence more people to help them reach their full potential. And as they do, the real perks will come with them. This is the old adage, pay now and play later. Now, as you lift people rather than hold them down, they push you toward the top. You'll rise because of the success of those you lead, rather than using them to climb up. Now, that's a huge difference in how to rise to the top. One is lonely and insecure, while the other is fulfilling and lasting. Here's the application part of this lesson. First, find someone you trust and ask what others say about you, and encourage brutal honesty. If you passed away or left the organization today, what would they say about you after you're gone? Well, here's a suggestion. Write out what you want to be remembered for when someone gives a eulogy at your funeral or speaks about you after you leave the organization, and start living that eulogy and legacy statement today. Don't spend your last days wondering what could have been. Begin crafting what will be. Here's the second application exercise. Start a roundtable to discuss how to make a lasting, impactful, and meaningful difference in your community. And show those at the table this model of the 5 levels of leadership and guide the whole table toward the pinnacle, and ask how you can reach it together. The world needs and deserves to be changed, and you're just a leader who can make that happen. We've asked and answered 6 crucial questions in this series, and they are: what is leadership? Who are you? We asked, who are you leading? What is your win? Who is your successor? And finally, we asked, what is your legacy? The answers to those questions is up to you. But remember what John Maxwell said in his book, Change Your World. One of the keys to arriving at the end of our lives without regret is doing the work of creating a lasting legacy. Now, I want to thank you and congratulate you for being with me on this learning journey. And if you're like me, you'll never see leadership the same again. You'll begin to look at the world and everything in it through a leadership lens. Now, as you develop yourself as a student of leadership, that view from that lens expands, becoming clearer and more focused. Your understanding and belief in the statement that everything rises and falls on leadership will increase, and you'll want to help bring better leadership to every situation you encounter. Now remember, people deserve to be led well. So grow your potential as a leader and help people find and reach their potential. Reach for the pinnacle of leadership.